Hello, I'm Stephanie Soebbing from Quilt Addicts Anonymous, and today we're going to be having some fun and we're going to be making emoji pillows, and we're going to be using the book Emoji to use our templates. This is a really fun book, and I think it's a great opportunity to share your love of quilting with the younger generation. I'm going to be making this with my daughter, who is 4, and so I'm going to be doing a little bit of prep work on camera, and so the amount of prep work you guys do will vary based on the skill level and attention span of the child that you're working with. But whether you're making this as a gift for your child or grandchild or niece or great nephew or anything like that, or making it with them, I think it's the perfect opportunity to share the love of sewing and hopefully get them involved as well. So like I said, I'm going to do a little bit of prep work ahead of time because I know what my daughter's attention span is for this. She loves to sew with me, but she's not going to sit and make an entire pillow. So I'm going to do a few things ahead of time. You figure out what works for you. As always, everything that you need to make this is available over at shop.quiltaddictsanonymous.com. Whenever you see a project, you want to give it a go. If you get the supplies from us, that helps support us and help us be able to bring you new video tutorials every week. So let's get started. So as you can tell, there's lots of different emojis to go with this, and they want you to just copy out the different shapes to make the different faces, and they have instructions for quilts, long body pillows, or just throw pillows, which is what we're doing today. And yes, they do have a poop. We have already made a rainbow poop emoji pillow. My daughter loves it. I'll share some photos of it. That one's a little bit more complicated because there's more pieces. This one's going to be nice and easy because we literally are just going to have 2 heart eyes and a mouth, which is my daughter's favorite emoji after the rainbow poop, because when you're 4, you love a poop emoji. It just is a thing. But anyway, so let's get started here. So first I'm going to use my paper scissors to cut out my templates. Again, we're doing the heart first. And what I did is I just took this to the scanner on my printer and I just made a copy, and that's perfectly fine and acceptable to do if you would purchase the book. Where you don't want to do that is if you're stealing templates, because that's not cool. Support the pattern designer and get their book. So I'm just going to cut out one of these because I want it to be the exact same shape, although they do give you templates for both eyes. All right, so now I need to get this ready to fuse onto the pillow because we want to do fusible applique for this. This is not an heirloom quilting project, so no need to do needle turn by hand or anything like that. I'm using the ultra hold because I want to have like some extra stability to that, because I feel like this is going to take more use and abuse as a pillow. So typically when you do fusible applique, you want to reverse everything. And this one, it doesn't matter because the heart is going to be the same shape whether it's on the front or the back. But if you had like eyes that were going one direction, what you would want to do is just flip it over so that the template is facing down, and then just trace around it. And this stuff isn't expensive, but it's also not something you want to run out of on a Saturday afternoon. So do try to just conserve it as much as possible because it lasts for a long time. You want to make sure you are using a pencil to trace around, because we're going to heat this up. So things like friction gel pens will just go away once you heat it up, and then you won't have a line to cut it out and you have to trace again, which, let me tell you, I've learned by experience, so don't do that. And if your line isn't perfectly as straight as you like either, or it's a little wobbly, that's fine. You can smooth it out when you cut it out. You want to leave a little bit of space between where you stopped and the edge, and that's so that way when you're fusing it down, you've got a little bit of wiggle room and you're not like right on top of it. That'll make more sense when we do it. All right, so just do the mouth and we are good to go. If you have a lot of pieces, it might be helpful to label what's what. All right, so now I'm going to cut these out, but I'm not going to cut right on the lines. I'm going to cut right next to the lines so that way we can cut on the lines once it's fused down. So I'm just kind of rough cutting this out just so that I have the general shape of the mouth and the heart eyes. So you can see I've still got a little bit on all sides, so that way I've got something to stick down to, and then we can go from there. Now, normally if I were doing this as something that we're going to be like quilted, I would window that, and we've got another video on fusible applique that shows you how to do it. But essentially you're going to cut about 1/4 inch on the inside of all those lines, and that makes it a little bit less stiff, but since this is going to be on a pillow and not a snuggly quilt, I'm not as concerned about that. What it does is it just removes that extra glue, and so it just makes everything a little bit more soft and pliable and feel more like traditional applique. I just store my extra in the same bag so I know what it is and can get it later for another project. So this is a batik, which means there's no right or wrong side, but what you would want to do is fuse this to the wrong side of your fabric. That way when you flip it over, the glue is going to be on the wrong side and you'll be able to fuse it down with the right side poking up. All right, since there is sort of a directionality to these dots, what I'm going to try and do is arrange it so that the dots are going about the same way in the eyes. But if you're doing it with a little one and you think that they can handle this part of it, just let them do whatever. It's their pillow. Just let them have some fun. So I'm kind of lining it up. I can kind of see through here. You probably can't see it on camera that those dots are kind of going straight, but I think it might be more fun to have them going straight up and down the eyes. So I'm going to try and do that and have them going straight from the bottom to the top there. And you just want to follow the instructions of your fusible web. You're just going to heat that up for a little bit. And then you're just going to leave it to cool. And while it's doing that, I'm going to fuse the other eye on and the mouth. All right, so once everything has cooled off a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and cut right on this line that I drew in order to cut out my applique shapes. But you want to wait until this is fully cooled, otherwise that glue won't have set properly. So just as usually, by the time I finished fusing everything on, the first piece I did is cool, so that usually works pretty well for me. All right, so I just want to cut right on that line. And again, if any of your lines weren't as straight as you wanted them to be, now is the time to sort of smooth it out with your scissors as you cut. All right, so we've got heart eye number 1. I'm going to leave the paper on the back for now for 2 reasons. 1, it won't get accidentally fused to anything. And 2, my daughter loves pulling the backs off of these. It's kind of like a little sticker. So I know that's something she'll enjoy doing, so I'm going to save that task for her. All right, so now that we have our applique emoji pieces done, it's time to make the actual head. That's going to be done a little bit differently. So you could use the fusible web for this, but the author actually suggests that you use fusible interfacing. The stuff we have at the shop I really like. It's great for t-shirt quilts too, but it's because it's actually woven on one side, so it behaves and acts like fabric, which means it's going to lay nice and flat without getting little wrinkles in it, which is fabulous. Now what she suggests doing is just taking your standard dinner plate and tracing that out. The other fun thing about the one we have in the shop is that it is 44 inches wide, which means you will be able to get 10 full heads from one width of fabric, which means if you order a half yard, you can really get a lot out of that and not have to worry about it. Like you could get 12 full emoji heads out of a yard of this, which is fabulous. Whereas otherwise they normally are like 20 inches wide. So you just end up losing a lot of fabric. All right, so I've got my dinner plate, and for this one I'm going to use my friction gel pen because I want this line to go away later because I'm using that nice yellow for my background, and I'm just worried that something else might show through. So I'm just tracing around. I'm not being super specific about it. I'm just making sure that it is in fact a circle. This is something that my daughter could do, but I know she won't have the attention span to sit through the in-between steps. So I'm doing this part ahead as well. All right, so now I'm going to just go ahead and cut a 12-inch square out of this and also a 12-inch square out of my background for my head. And I'm gonna pin those together and sew them around, and we'll give you the trick for that in just a second. All right, so this next part is going to seem a little odd. This is kind of a stitch and flip method of applique. I've seen it used many times before, and I used it when I did the poo emoji. And what I'm going to do is you're going to lay the fusible side of the interfacing so that it is facing the right side of your fabric, which is backwards from what I just told you 2 seconds ago. But what we're going to do is we're going to stitch along this line, cut a hole in the center of the interfacing only, and then flip it all the right side out. So that way the fusible part will end up on the back. So what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to put some pins in around here. And I'm just kind of first hitting across, you know, the 4 corners, basically north, south, east, and west. And then I'll probably do a couple in between too, just to kind of hold it together so that we have a nice flat emoji circle when we're all done. So I'm just going to sew all along this line that I drew using a straight stitch on my sewing machine. So now in order to get a nice smooth edge all around here, you have 2 choices. One, you can cut it out And then you can put little nicks in so that you have little V-shaped cutouts going all around this, and that will help everything lay nice and flat. Or you can change out your rotary cutter blade with the pinking blade or use pinking shears. I really like the pinking blade on the rotary cutter. I don't use it often, but when I do, it's super handy. It's also great if you like to do little garments or doll clothes, because then you don't have to finish your seams very nicely. Like with French seams and sergers and all that nonsense, you can just do that. Or you can make your own pre-cut bundles doing that as well. So I've already switched out my blade, and what I'm gonna do is just cut around this. And I want to go as close as I can, but without cutting into that stitching line. So I'm going to go nice and slow. Keep turning as I need to. So now we've got a nice pinked edge going around the entire circle, and so it's going to be really easy to flip wrong side out. Now very carefully, what you want to do is lift up the interfacing and separate it from the fabric on the back. And you're going to make a little incision here. And you can make that wider if you want, but you just want to do a little bit to start with. All right, so that should be enough for me to reach my hand in and flip everything so that the right side of the fabric is facing out. Now the first thing I'm going to do is go through this with my fingers, and I'm just kind of taking my fingertips and pressing that edge out. Now here's the tricky part. This is all has the fabric adhesive on it, so that way it'll stick to your fabric. So you do not want to iron it to get it nice and flat like I normally would for an applique piece that I'm flipping out. What I'm going to use instead is a Violet Craft seam roller. These things are really great for when you are sewing with kids in general, because you can get a really nice flat seam without having to use an iron, which is always good when you can avoid an iron with working with little ones. But what I can do is kind of go around this seam here, and I can get it as pushed out as I can with my fingernails, and then go over it, and you can see it staying nice and flat. So I'm going to keep going around there, and then this is going to be pretty much ready to go for when my daughter comes in and we finish up our emoji pillow. All right, and there we have it, a nice perfect circle that has nice finished edges that will not get frayed up, and we're ready to attach this to the back of our pillow and then get our emoji face on.
Hi!
Are you ready to help finish your emoji pillow?
Yeah.
All right, so what I already did is I got your heart eyes ready and your mouth and your back of your face. Now we're gonna get ready to add it to your pillow. All right, so you ever get to use your seam roller? Mommy's gonna fold it in half, and I want you to roll along this fold. Can you do that? Press real hard like this. Let me show you. Okay, now just roll across this. Got it? This is so we can find the center. You gotta go roll right on the fold, honey. Very good.
There's anything else I don't want to.
Oh, well, we're gonna do it this way now. Ready? All right, we got a nice fold line. Now we're gonna do it on the other side. So mommy, fold it in half. Okay, now go ahead and roll on this side too.
I almost right on you.
You're doing a good job, honey. All right, do you see the X that was created? The big plus sign?
Yeah.
All right, so now we're gonna do the same thing to the back of your emoji. You got it, you're doing good.
Tomorrow we can make emoji pillow like sad.
You really enjoy these emoji pillows, don't you?
I want that one.
Oh, the crying eyes? That could be a fun one. Come on, roll it over the seam so we can make our X.
Savoring.
All right, so we have our X that we created underneath, and I'm lining it up with the X that we created up here. And that should keep everything nice and centered. All right, now we're gonna use the iron. And so you're gonna just put your hand on top of my hand, okay? Because we have to be very careful because the iron's very hot.
That's the grown-up part.
It is a grown-up part, but you can help. You can hold my hand. All right, so we're just gonna go around.
Oh, the Christmas always jolly. La 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 la.
It's February 28th when we're filming this.
Jolly, and it's jolly. La 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 la. La 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 la.
Okay, so we've got this mostly fused down. The edges are coming up a little bit, but it's mostly there, so that'll be good enough until we can go around it. And so now is your fun part. Let's start with the mouth. How about we do the mouth first?
No, the eyes.
You want to do the eyes first? Okay, well, let's put the mouth in place so that way we know where everything's going to be. And that way it's easier to put stuff in the right spot. All right, remember you got to take the paper back off. Do you remember doing that when we made your poop emoji?
I'm going to take it off right now.
Go ahead and take that off. You got it. There you go.
When we make the emoji pillow, it's going to be...
All right, so you want the shiny side to be down. Is the shiny side down?
Yeah.
All right, so where are we putting the heart? Hang on, move your hand.
Here.
All right, Mommy will iron that one down while you peel that off, okay? Just want to hold your iron over it for a few seconds. All right, now let's put the eye on. All right, let's try and get it to look somewhat even. How about right there? You like it right there?
Yeah.
Okay, let's move it over a little bit.
I will sleep on my emoji pillow all the way down.
Okay. Yep, we're just waiting for you. You're doing good. Getting the smile out.
That one is a boy. He's a boy.
You think he's a boy? How can you tell?
Because I...
Alrighty, we are done with the iron for now. Let's put that away. Are you ready to sew?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's start with going around the outside. So just so you know, you can use any of the decorative stitches on your machine. The zigzag is pretty popular. My favorite... Yeah, you like the zigzag? My favorite's the buttonhole stitch. You want to do the buttonhole stitch?
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to go get some yellow thread and we're going to get going. All right, so what we're going to do, honey, is we're going to sew all around this with the buttonhole stitch. You want to help me?
Yeah.
What this does is it secures everything to the pillow. So that way if you ever have to wash it, it's not going to come apart. Pretty cool, huh?
I don't want to wash it.
Well, sometimes it might get dirty or something, then you would have to wash it. Whenever I'm sewing with my daughter, I tend to slow things down to the medium speed. That way we're never going too fast. Okay, we got to keep it nice and flat, okay? So don't push it too far.
Don't push it too far, kids. They won't have for kids.
Yeah, well, probably both.
Hi, won't have no.
What are we making?
Emoji pillow, guys.
Almost all the way around the top of his head.
Why are you doing it?
Well, because we want the colors to match so you see your fun fabrics. Hey, don't touch it there.
Why?
Because the thread is going through there. We don't mess it up. All right. You going to press that button one more time? Lock the threads in place? All right, that's good. Got it all locked in place. No, that's plenty. You're good. All right. Now we're going to cut the threads and we're going to switch to a new color. Do you want to do pink next?
Pink.
All right.
This is cute.
It is cute.
I kissed them.
I see that. Yep, we got to do one more eye. All right, you ready? Hit that button.
Mom, you like...
No, that's not it. Hit this. There you go. All right, we've changed threads for the last time, and now we're going to go around his mouth in our black thread. You ready to help me? All right, help me. Good job.
His mouth is big.
He does have a big mouth because he's very happy. All right, so we've got our emoji face ready to go.
Mom, I'm turning into emoji.
You're an emoji? Oh my gosh. I'm going to turn this into a pillow, and then we'll come back with the two of us and show it off. I'll just show you real quick. I've demoed how to do pillows before, but I'll show you real quick how I do it and add an invisible zipper. So for pillows, I always cut it about an inch larger than the size pillow I've gotten. So I have a 16-inch pillowcase, so my background is 17 inches square. Now, I like to have a little bit more body to my pillows, so I'm going to layer and base this like it was a quilt. This is optional. You could just, you know, put it together at this point if you wanted. So what I've got underneath is just some plain gray fabric I had, and you're never going to see this, so it can be anything. It can be the fabric that you really regret buying. Then I'm going to layer a little bit of batting on top. You could also use fusible fleece if you wanted, but like many quilters always have extra batting on hand, so this is really an easy thing to just grab from your extras. And then I'm going to put this together. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pin my corners and then my sides, and then I'm just going to sew around the whole thing with either a buttonhole stitch or like a zigzag stitch, and that will seal off all my edges so that they don't get frayed if I ever have to wash this. Somebody's all dressed for ballet, and we're going to zigzag stitch around the edges real quick before we have to go. Leave the pins in until I tell you to take them out.
I'm going to leave it.
Leave it right there, honey. Until I tell you to take it out.
Now?
Nope. Wait until we get closer. All right, now you can take it out. All right, put it right in this tin. Good job. So now I'm going to take and I'm going to fold it up right sides together so that I'm about 3 inches up and even on both sides right here. Slide my ruler out of place, and I'm just going to put a pin on both sides to hold that up. This is going to create a little gap to put our invisible zipper in. It's really a cool way of doing things. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew a 1/2 inch seam allowance down here, and that will give me a way to have my invisible zipper fit right in here and have everything fit real nicely. It's a really cool way to do a zipper. You could switch to a walking foot for this part, but it's just a pillow, so I'm not going to get all fancy with it. But if you want to, you can put that on your sewing machine as well. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to reinforce my stitches by sewing a few front and a few back. And then once I get about an inch or so in, I'm going to increase my stitch length to the longest length possible. And that will give me a basting stitch that I can pick out later. All right, so now I'm about an inch or so back from the edge, so I'm going to reduce my stitch length back to the standard width, which is 2.5 in this case. So I'm going to reinforce this stitch here a little bit, sew to the end, and reinforce that stitch as well. So here's where it gets really cool, and this is why this is my favorite way to do a zipper for a pillow. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my scissors and I'm just going to cut right up this fold. And then I can remove these pins. And now this basting stitch is going to come apart in a minute, but we've got a nice smooth back. So this is great if you're working with home decor or canvas to make some pillows. But what you're going to do here is you can press this open. And again, we can use our seam roller for that to help it lay nice and flat. As flat as you can. And if you want, you can go through and you can do a zigzag stitch on the edges of these two. I think I'm going to skip it, and if I ever have to wash this, maybe just do an air dry. But that would be a really great way to secure all those edges. So now what you do is you just lay your invisible zipper right down the center there, like that. And I'm gonna put my zipper foot on my machine, and then I'll be able to stitch going down one side and then back down the other, and it is really a cool, easy way to do a zipper. So this is what your zipper foot looks like, and it's got a little groove on the bottom, and it's gonna sit right on top of your zipper. And it just fits right in that groove neatly and just goes right along, and it makes it really easy to stay right on track with your zipper that way. So I'm actually gonna start so that my zipper, the actual pull of it, is hanging off the edge. The zipper I have is longer than I need, which is always a good thing. And I'm just trying to get it so that the center of my zipper tape is right down the center of that seam. If it isn't right down the center, it's not the end of the world. Just use coordinating thread so you can't tell. All right, so I'm just kind of lining this up as I go, trying to keep it in line. You could always pin or do a basting stitch first. I've done a lot of zippers, so I'm just gonna kind of go for it here. Your main goal is you wanna make sure that your needle never goes over the zipper teeth, because once thread crosses your zipper teeth, it will not unzip past that point. So that's what you want to be careful of when you are doing this. But as long as you have those teeth snugged right up in there, it's super easy to do. All right, so when I get to the end here, all I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it, and then I very slowly am going to just turn my needle by hand, because I don't want to break my needle, but it can sew over a zipper with no problem. You just kind of have to take it slow. So that's why I usually do it by hand to control it a little better. By sewing over it, that will prevent the zipper from going any further that way, so I'll be able to snip that zipper off in the end. I'm gonna kind of roll this up a little bit, and now I'm gonna sew about 3/4 of the way down the other seam, and then I'm gonna break my thread for a second. All right, and maybe about 2/3 of the way down. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna reinforce those stitches, and I'm gonna break my thread, and I'm gonna start to pick open that basting stitch so I can move my zipper pull down before I finish everything. Might be a little hard to tell because I use coordinating thread, but now I've got seams going down both sides of that zipper. And what I wanna do is I wanna find the point where it starts to get a little bit more open. And I just want to snip those threads and start pulling that down. And my goal here is to be able to pull that zipper pull down a little bit. So now, since this side is still free, what I can do is I can pull this down. And then flipping it over, I can pull that zipper pull down past where that opening is, and then I'll be able to get in there later. So now I just need to keep sewing the rest of the way down, and everything will be nice and in place. It may be helpful to put a little pin here at the end just to keep everything where you want it to be. All right, before you do anything else, make sure that your zipper will go all the way from one side to the other. If you have it where it won't open, that means that you've crossed threads at some point and you need to fix that before you go any further. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna clip off the ends of the zipper. And I'm gonna leave this zipper open because when we sew this together, we're gonna use this as our hole for turning. That way we can go all the way around the pillow all at once. So now what we need to do is cut this so that it is the same size as our pillow top, which should be 17 inches. So I'm just gonna go ahead and give this a trim, and then we're gonna put it right sides together, sew it together, and then we're done. Just gonna do a super fast little zigzag stitch, and then we'll sew them all together. All right, so now it's time to lay everything right sides together. We're gonna pin at our corners and in the middle of our sides. So all the way around, I'm using a 1/2 inch seam allowance for this, and then we're ready to stuff it. I almost always like to start in the middle bottom. That way, if anything doesn't come together great at the end, it's at the bottom and you won't ever see it because it'll be hidden under the pillow. So what I'll do is I'll start, do a little reinforcing. And again, if you wanna use a walking foot for this, by all means get it out and put it on your machine. All right, I'm about to go over the zipper. So I'm just gonna kind of go a little slow as I do that. All right, I have cleared the zipper teeth, so now I'm free to zoom away. All right, so I went all the way around, and when I was done, I overlapped where I was at and where I started, and then did a little bit of back stitching just to hold it nice and in place. But it's great because you get to sew all the way around the entire thing because we've got that opening already for turning from where the zipper is. So no hand stitching that pillow bottom, which is fabulous if you've ever had to do that. All right, so if you wanted to and you preferred the look of it, you could clip your seams here. I like it because to leave them intact because I feel like it fills out the edges of the pillow a little bit more. But at this point, all you want to do is reach your hand in and turn everything right side out. We've got a nice finished off edges on the inside, so if you ever need to wash it, it's no big deal. Everything will stay intact. And just push out your corners as best you can with your fingertips. That's actually one of the reasons why when I was trimming, I trimmed from the top half of the back to get it to size, because by having about 1.5 inches or 2 inches at the bottom here, it's a lot easier to poke those bottom corners out and get them looking nice. So once you're happy with the way the corners look, it's time to stuff your pillow. I've got a pillow form here. We had them available at the shop as well, so you can always order from us and we can ship that to you along with your book. I always like to grab those top 2 corners together and then shove them as far in as I can. And just try to get it in place as much as you can before you zip it up. One trick that interior designers use is they'll take just a little bit of polyfiber fill and they will put it in the corners to fluff them out a little bit more. The other way you could do it is instead of making everything 1 inch larger than your pillow form, you could make it the exact size of the pillow form. So 16 inches instead of 17 in this case. And then that will snug everything up a little bit more when you put it all together and fill it out a little better. So here we have our adorable little Emoji pillow. I'm gonna go get the future quilter and see what she thinks of it. Pretty cool. Oh, we're showing off the poop one too that we made earlier. So the poop one, you can see it's a little bit smaller. That is one that I made the exact size of the pillow form, so you can see it fills it out a little bit better. Whereas it's the exact same pillow form in this one. But what do you think? What do you think of your emoji? What do you think of your emoji pillow? You like it? Yeah, you want to make more with Mommy? Yeah. All right.
Let's make another one.
Let's make another one. Maybe not tonight. Maybe another time.
On the morning.
On the morning. She's very excited. So, if you too want to have fun sewing with your little one or sewing for them.
I want all of them.
Obviously, we have a fan.
Mom.
It is a Sew-Emoji book. Yeah?
I want this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one, this one.
You want them all?
Yeah.
Yeah, we want them all. The book is called Sew-Emoji. We've got it over at shop.quiltaddictsanonymous.com. It has all of the templates already sized to work with the right thing or with the right size quilt block. And again, you can do it as a quilt block.
Let's sew them again.
Or pillow. Yeah, let's show them your pillow.
Again.
You want to show them your poo? Well, the poo's upside down. Flip it over.
Happy quilting.
Happy quilting.
Yeah.